Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the English news from Djibouti channels. Here the headlines of our news tonight. Our titles are: the President of the Arab Parliament, Abdel bin Abdurrahman Al Hussein, arrived today in Djibouti. On continental news, arrival at the port of GMP, the equipment of baggage. It's a national news. For the international news in European Union, a very sharp increase in coronavirus in Europe. Good evening. The Prime Minister, Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, early this morning, we went to the region of Obakh in order to proceed with the ceremony of handing over the key of 100 social housing units built by the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, the EOG Foundation, under its interventions program entitled Right to Housing, which provides for the construction of housing in the regions. On the government side, the Minister of Housing, Mrs. Amina Abdi Aden, and the Minister of the Environment and Tourism, Mr. Mohammed Abdul Qadir Musa, accompanied the Prime Minister. Also present were the Director of the EOG Foundations, Mr. Mahmoud Ali, as well as the Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister, Mr. Ali Silai, the Director of Urban Planning, Habib Ibrahim, and the senior official of the Primacy, and the Minister concerned, Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Mohammed, and his delegations went after that welcomed on their descent from the plane by the prefect of the region, Mr. Abdul Malik Mohammed Benoita, the president of the regional council, Mr. Mohammed Hamad Ismail, as well as deputies and local elected officials of the region. Achievement and prospect in the housing sector are the result of the policy of the President of the Republic, who has made it a national priority to program the constructions of social housing in the region in order to facilitate the access of their inhabitants to decent housing. The key of the 100 social housing units, which will be supervised and monitored by the foundations, were handed over by the Prime Minister to the local authorities of Obakh. Furthermore, the program of the Prime Minister's visit included a meeting held at the Obakh Regional Council headquarters between the Prime Minister's delegations and the wise men of the region to discuss the ins and outs of the housing program, but also territorial development as a factor of peace, stability, and development. The Prime Minister and the wise men agreed to stay loud, clear that security is the sine qua conditions for building a further of peace and development. The Prime Minister also took advantage of his trip to visit Sublali to check on the progress of the water connection works in the town of Kayu, inspect the progress of the work on the football field of the Obakh Omnisport Stadium, a short visit to the construction site of the future fishery, which will include a cold storage room and an ice cream factory. Finally, on the fringe of the delegation's side, the technical team of the town planning department was mandated to visit the sector between Haujef and Raspiro to identify the site of the future shipyard. Landing a high-level delegation, the Speaker of the Arab Parliament, Mr. Adil Abdurrahman Al Assoumi, arrived this afternoon in Djibouti for a working visit of several days. The visit follows an invitation from the Speaker of the National Assembly of Djibouti, Mr. Mohammed Ali Hamad, and is intended to support and mobilize joint Arab actions. He was received at the Djibouti International Airport by the President of the National Assembly and his deputy, Mr. Ilmi Absiya Wais, in addition to the President's advisor for Arab World Affairs, Mr. Ali Abdan, as well as many parliamentarians. The President of the two parliamentary institutions held short discussions in the airport's VIP lounge, through which they reviewed the good relations that exist between the Djibouti Parliament and the Arab Parliament. After this brief talk, the President of the Arab Parliament gave an interview to the national channel in which he evoked the objective of his visit in this regard. Mr. Abdulrahman Al Soumi expressed his great pleasure to visit the Republic of Djibouti, stressing that this would contribute to strengthening joint Arab actions. He indicated that the two parties would conclude a number of agreements that would meet the aspirations of the Djiboutian people, affirming their readiness to support the effort of the Djiboutian Parliament in various fields. For his part, the President of the National Assembly, Mr. Mohammed Ali Hamad, expressed his satisfactions with the visit of the President of the Arab Parliament into Djibouti, which testified to his interest in promoting and developing joint Arab actions. The Minister of Economy and Finance in charge of Industry, Mr. Ilyas Musa Dawali, chaired the launching meeting of the Steering Committee of the Emergency Fund in the support of very small and medium enterprise. This fund by the decree number 2020-085 date to 9 August 2020 is endowed with 10,000 US dollar and is part of the arsenal of the National Solidarity Pact adopted by the Council of Ministers. The TMP eligible to this fund will benefit from the subsidies provide for and compliance with the criteria and procedure put in place. This Relief and Solidarity Fund is one response, among others, to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. The Minister of Economy and Finance emphasized that this steering committee and the Office of the Administrations of the Relief and Solidarity Fund will communicate more fully and the eligibility criteria and procedures. The Minister of Energy in charge of the National Resource, Mr. Younis Aligid, received his Sunday in his office a large Indian delegation led by the Indian ambassador to Djibouti, Mr. Ashok Kumar. The delegation was composed of the director of the National Thermal Power Corporation, a state-owned enterprise, Mr. Narinder Mohan Gupta, and its Director of International Development, Mr. Nipun Farlia. These business leaders are indeed making this visit to explore cooperation and business opportunity in the energy sector in Djibouti. A working meeting of the national commissions in charge of the introductions of deployment of COVID-19 vaccine was held this morning. The commission is chaired by the Dr. Ahmed Roble and is composed of doctors and national experts. During this working meeting, the coordinations of the expanded program on immunizations and national focal point of the Gavi initiative, Dr. Abdurrahman Duksiye outlined the various steps already taken and the achievement made by his department, with a view to acquire vaccines against COVID-19. The discussions of the various public health experts and researchers were fruitful. This national commission was set up at the end of December 2020 to prepare the country to receive the COVID vaccine, but also with a view to its deployment. As part of the constructions of the 16 megawatt wind power project in Kuwait, developed by the Red Sea Power, a consortium made up of Great Horn Investment Holding, AFC, and FMO and CEO. Three ships carrying several loads of equipment and materials have arrived at DMP's port. These patches consisting of mats, boots, and plates, among others, constitute the most important part of the equipment for the successful setup of the project and will be transported over a period of a few weeks. It should be noted that due to the difficulties and disruptions caused by the COVID-19, the arrival and delivery of the equipment had been somewhat delayed. This project is in line with the vision of the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, for 100% green energy transitions. As part of the celebrations of the 20th anniversary of the University of Djibouti, a conference on the issues, challenges, and impacts of big data and artificial intelligence took place this morning at the Balbala campus, more precisely in the conference room of the Faculty of Engineering. Continuations of the work likely to highlight the progress made, achievement, and prosperity led by the President of the University of Djibouti himself. The day it's intended to shed light and to the highlight on the issue and impact of big data, artificial intelligence, and robotizations of logistics sector. And in companies, a beautiful, short, and precise presentation was made by the national expert, but also lecturer and research like Mr. Hussein Ahmed Asowi on the methodology of artificial intelligence in order to preserve and digitize the Djiboutian oral tales and tradition for a more promoting cultural impulse. The Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Authorities on Development IGAD, Dr. Warkani Gabiyehu, and the head of European Delegation in Djibouti, Ambassador Aidan, signed this morning a grant agreement to support IGAD for the South Sudan-Ethiopia transboundary biodiversity conservation project in the Boma Gambala landscape. The Minister of Planetary of the Policy and Public Diplomacy, speaking on behalf of the Ethiopian ambassador to Djibouti, participated in the ceremony held at the IGAD headquarters. Did the Sudanese ambassador to Djibouti in his capacity as chairman of the IGAD Committee of Ambassadors. The overall objective of the project is to improve the governance of the natural resource and people of the Boma Gambala landscape. More specifically, the project aims to establish collaborative cross-border management of protected areas and enter zones in the Boma Gambala landscape. This 4.4 million 6-month conservation project aimed to establish system and protocol for cross-border collaboration, capacity building, landscape level planning, scientific collaborations, and information sharing, wildlife law enforcement and management, and community-based interventions.
Either us or our successors will be coming back with a fantastic story to tell at the end of our project.
On behalf of the government of Ethiopia and on His Excellency Ambassador Brahanu's behalf, I would like to thank IGAD for bringing such a tremendous idea into reality. Bearing this in mind, IGAD, in collaboration with the European Union, brought this project into practice for the next 5 years, which will help protecting, preserving, and maintaining the landscape with its biodiversity. This is indeed a good example of IGAD's efforts to bring regional integration. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the project has the overall objective of enhancing governance for natural resources and people in the Boma-Gambela landscape. The project will also have specific objectives of establishing collaborative transboundary management of protected areas and interzones in the landscape.
The Executive Secretary of IGAD, Dr. Warkane Gabriel, who said in his speech that it's an honor to be part of this project and the project will contribute to develop the country of the IGAD.
Honor to host you this morning on this joyous occasion as we put pen to paper and enter into the formal agreement between IGAD and the European Union jointly conserve the rich and diverse natural heritage of the borderlands along Boma and Gambela. The European Union has once again stepped into generously support this project with €4.5 million through 11th European Development Fund, EDF, for the next 5 years. This project is the latest in a long line of partnership and shared initiatives between IGAD and the European Union to preserve all that is good in our region and also address the challenges that we face and we are facing. IGAD and the European Union have a long-standing friendship that has grown from strength to strength, and for this I wish to sincerely thank our friends, our partners, and actually our brothers and sisters in the European Union for their continued support, particularly for Ambassador Aiden. Ladies and gentlemen, I guarantee that IGAD will ensure the project is delivered on time and deliver a positive impact on the biodiversity management and the livelihood of communities resides in Boma Gambela. I thank you very much for your attention.
Under the aegis of the Secretariat of State for Youth and Sports, the Directorate of the CDC organized a sports day for women on Saturday through the community development center of the capital, which was attended by a large number of women who participated massively in friendly and inter-CDC meetings. Is it with a view to promoting sports activities in favor of young girls that the CDC management took the initiative to create from now on a clean day for girls in the CDCs in order to offer them a space favorable to their development? This day, which this time was reserved exclusively for young female footballers, so the participation of a large number of girls who took advantage of the event. On continental news, many others in very clear progressions of the coronavirus in Europe, the COVID-19 pandemic in Europe, particularly the health situation in Portugal, is particularly worrying. The country is recording record number of contamination, more than 50,000 per day, and death 274 in 24 hours, never before seen, giving the epidemiological. Here we arrive the end of this news edition. Thank you for watching us. Have a great day.